Good morning, and this is session 2 for Thursday, June 16th. I hope you are doing well today. For some reason, I am having a difficult time recording videos this morning. It seems that every time I start, I get confused in what I want to say and I have to stop. So this is about the 5th time that I've started this video, and I'm hoping to make it stick, okay? When we were discussing in our last session bucket lists, I told you that we would be looking at bucket lists in terms of why people make them and what kinds of things are on bucket lists. How do people go about reaching the goals that are on their bucket lists? Well, one of the ways that I want us to discuss this then is going to be influenced by some research that I found that was done by Stanford University, and most specifically, their medical school. Now, we don't often think about medical ideas when we think about bucket list, really, because we think of bucket lists as being, this sort of happy thing, okay? We think of it almost so casually now that we joke about our bucket lists. These kinds of things come along in societies every few years. Bucket lists have been around maybe like 10 or 15 years, I don't know, since that's become a popular thing. And they sort of are a part of our, what we call our pop culture. We begin to take them very casually. We talk about them in very general terms with friends and anybody, that we have conversation with. Not a big deal, right? And that's a good thing, I think. I think that in general we need to be pretty casual about this. But from the medical perspective, bucket lists can be seen as something that's quite serious, quite important. And that's what Stanford University was actually going for with their research. For decades, doctors and medical researchers have known that some people tend to have a greater desire to live and to overcome physical and medical hardships. Some people have attitudes that allow them to often push through difficult medical times and to try harder to overcome an illness or injury or surgery. Then there are those people who have a more limited view of their lives. They don't necessarily see things in a positive light. Perhaps we might think of these people as being somewhat depressed, somewhat short-sighted in terms of the view of what is possible in life. And doctors and researchers want always to try to bring out the best in people and to help people to see that there are so many reasons for living, so many things to live for. So this research project was undertaken. Over 3,000 participants were included in the project. These participants came from all across the country. They represented a variety of age groups, both male and female, and various cultural groups and socioeconomic groups, so that the surveying, the research would be fair and would give a fair result. It was determined that there would be 6 major categories that would be considered. 6 major categories of things that people in general desire to do and are likely to put on their bucket lists if they have one. All right? And those 6 things, I'm looking for my marker, are right here. They all begin with desire to. There is the desire to travel. We talk about that one among ourselves in class quite often. I think that's a favorite desire of all of us in the classroom. A desire to accomplish a goal. A desire to achieve specific life milestones. A desire to spend quality time with family and friends. And so I'm going to do with, and I'll do F and F for family and friends. And a desire to achieve financial stability. All right. So let's take these one at a time, and I'll share with you the results of the survey. In desire to travel, this one came in first with 78.5% of the participants saying that this is one of the major things on their bucket lists. Specific places where they want to go before they die, or before they are too old to maybe be able to handle travel. Now, to have the goal of travel is, I think, very indicative of having the goal to continue to learn. Those go together because of all of the excitement of travel, the beauty of the places that we see, the people that we meet. In all of that is this learning that takes place. We learn about culture. We learn about new ideas, and we learn, about all of the different aspects: geography, art, culture. I think I've already said food, so forth. We learn the histories of various places around our world. So that desire to travel really, I think, speaks to a mindset of really wanting to get as much out of this life as you can possibly get out of this life. All right, the desire to accomplish a goal. All right, they found that this came in second with very close 78.3% of participants. People set goals for themselves, and keeping goals out in front of ourselves really helps us to stay focused, doesn't it? It helps us to have something that we are working towards. Our goals don't have to be always really big things. They don't have to be, the next degree from the university necessarily, something that you have to work terribly hard for. Sometimes a goal can be to have 2 children by, the year 2022. That may be a goal, something that you want to achieve in your family. A goal may be to move to a different job in the next few years, in a different part of the country, perhaps. Goals can be large and small, and depending on our age group, our bucket list of goals will look very different, right? Many middle school and high school kids, college kids as well, are making bucket lists. And there's oftentimes are short term. My bucket list for high school, things I want to do just in high school, not the bucket list of the rest of my life, or a bucket list for my college years. What are the most important things that I need to do while I am in college that will set me on the right path for my future life? And then I'll make a bucket list for that. So sometimes the goals can be small. They don't have to be huge things that require a huge amount of work. But having goals in front of us help us to keep that positive attitude, that desire to take care of ourselves and to keep going. All right, thirdly, the desire to achieve specific life milestones. This came in at 51% of participants. Now, a milestone, in case that's a new term for you, is has to do, as you might imagine, with the word miles. It has to do with some distance being achieved, and in this case the distance has to do with the distance of years. So by a certain year I want to have graduated. By a certain year I want to have gotten married. By a certain year I want to have a family. By the time I'm 50 I want to have a home that is paid in full. By the time I am 60, I want to be financially stable enough to begin to consider retirement. So milestones are those sorts of big and usually age-related events of our life. A milestone also or milestones in general may occur in one's religious or faith life. A baptism can be a milestone event for a Christian who is growing in faith. In other religions, there are specific events that have to do with your age and your experience in that faith, saying that now you are eligible for the next level of participation in a particular faith. I've told you all that I taught for a couple of years at a Jewish school, and there were the milestone events there, the what's the word? I can't think of it right now, that the Jewish boys and girls have when they are around 7th or 8th grade. It will come to me in a moment. But this particular event is a very big milestone in the Jewish faith. So, whatever faith that you may be familiar with, most closely, you might be able to think of milestone events. But many people, half of us, would have that, one of those in our bucket list or more than one. Right, number 4, or coming in 4th place, and this one surprised me, that only 16.7% of people had this on their in their buckets as being important. And I was kind of surprised about that. I thought that would be higher, much higher actually. So I began to think about it, and I began to think that, well, in some ways, quality time with family and friends is a part of travel, and people may be thinking about that as included with travel, that we travel with our friends, our spouse, our life partner. Accomplishing goals and milestones, that also often happens with the love and support and care of family members. So perhaps this idea is sort of what we would say inherent, okay, already a part of some of these other ideas. And in 5th place, at 16.1%, was the desire to achieve financial stability. I actually thought that would be higher. It's interesting to me, but we know that it's really pretty hard to travel if you don't have financial stability. So I thought that this would come higher as well, that people would say, I want to have enough money so that I can travel and so that I can accomplish goals that are expensive, such as going to universities or owning a particular kind of home or owning my own business, whatever it might be. Financial stability matters a lot to some of us, more so maybe than others. But in the survey, it was 16%. So